Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes, and today, obviously, we're going to be talking about the Supreme Court decision yesterday and how that's going to affect the trans community and everybody in this country going forward. First of all, before we kick off, a big thank you to Paul Ewan for saying the fight back begins and for dropping a super chat in there with the pride flag. Thank you very much for that, sir. Oh, my screen went off. This is why I was a bit late getting started. It just the video feed kept stopping. I don't know if that's going to happen a lot over the next hour. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. But I might have to stop and start again if that's the case. If I do have to do that, please bear with me. Bear with me. I can't. Everything's plugged in. I don't know. So Martin Harrow in the chat. We've also got Sean in there as well, Gallifrey and Ren with badges and trans flags. We've also got Reagan Elite. I've also lost signal again. Okay, that's really not good. That should not be happening. I would normally just go over to the papers and just leave it on the papers for a moment while I sorted things out at the back end here. But obviously I can't really do that because the papers today are horrific and we're not going to look at them. Even Douglas Adams couldn't predict how weird the world would actually become, says UK Med Seat. You're absolutely right. You're back home, says Darren Christian. Yes, I'm back home. I thought, I'll get home and then there won't be any technical problems anymore. Yeah. Hope you have a safe trip, mate. Oh, thanks very much, UK Med Seat. No, it was good. It was good. We just went to Derby with the family for a few days. It was a bit of a chill out thing. For the Easter holes. And now it's Monday, Thursday. Do we get some money off the King today? The King's going to be in Durham Cathedral. So go and see the King in Durham Cathedral and see if we can get some money out the bastard. God, he's a billionaire. He's definitely got money. Stick a shilling in the meter, Graham. Do you know what I think it is? I think when I finished setting up yesterday, putting everything back together, I did geoscope with Ollie last night. I left my camera on overnight. And I think I need to turn it off and turn it back on again. If I have to do that, I will do that in the moment. But if it keeps going to that Elgato screen. The cat? Elgato? The cat? I don't know. Much needed in these times, pal, says UK Medsy. Yeah, well, yesterday was shit, But, I want to begin by stating unequivocally, trans rights are human rights. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. If you don't believe that, there's 1,000 other channels funded by tyrannical fascist billionaires for you to go and watch and, I don't know, masturbate yourself silly while being horrible to a minority because obviously that's what gets you off, you sick. Our show, this channel, is a safe space for trans people, so bigots, transphobes, TERFs, which stands for trans exclusionary radical fascists. You're not welcome here. So yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that women, specifically in the 2010 Equality Act, means biological women, as in people who are allocated female at birth. And because of a lot of reasons, not just the fact that trans people will always exist, there was a riddle that my dad used to like to ask, which was, what's the one animal that if you wiped out all of this animal on the planet, you'll still get more of that animal? And the answer's a mule, because it's a cross between a donkey and a horse, and there'll be more mules. There'll always be more mules. And in the same way, if you try and wipe out trans people, if you try and wipe out gay people, or left-handed people, or ginger people, there will always be more. They will just keep coming back. You can't get rid of them. And so any kind of law, any kind of judgment that makes trans people's lives more difficult in the hopes that, the people who brought this, the hopes that we can erase trans people from existence, it's never going to work. The Nazis tried it. Trans people were one of the first groups that the Nazis went after because they're an easy target. It's as simple as that. And that's why these gruesome billionaires, and let's make no bones about it, the people who go after trans people the most, JK Rowling, Trump, Murdoch, Musk, etc., all billionaires. There's a connection there. And I'll come to JK Rowling in a moment because I've got there is a rung of hell reserved for that woman, and we need to talk about like why she turned out the way that she did. I think it's very, very interesting to look at that. Sarah Davis with a £2 super chat. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. It's Catherine's birthday today, by the way. So I'm not going to be doing a show later today. So I shouldn't really be doing this one, but the fucking camera's gone off again. Just give me one moment. Hang on a sec. Alistair. Oh, wow, we got another super chat come in. Yep, still angry that the TERF's celebrating. It's now open Pandora's box. Yeah, that was possibly the most sickening thing of yesterday after the Supreme Court justice said, oh, we shouldn't be celebrating this. And then all these horrible TERFs outside of this courthouse popping champagne. And there was no one on the other side. But look, no one from the trans community was allowed to give any testimony in the case, but we'll come to that as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put you onto the first screen of the what's it called, the intro, and let's have a look. Okay, so I'm just gonna pop you over to this while I just sort out my fucking camera. Okay, so one sec. Okay, I think that's done. Okay, so I'll turn the camera off and turn it back on again. Hopefully it'll stop doing that thing what it was just doing. For Catherine, happy birthday. Oh, thanks very much. Thanks, Sarah. That's really kind of you. Thank you. So yeah, I'm not going to do a show today. I'm going to take Catherine out for the day with the kids and try and forget about all the shit that's going on in the world right now. Yeah. So look, the Supreme Court yesterday ruled that in the Equality Act 2010, women means biological women. It is just in that specific part of that act. There's also other parts of the act which specifically create rights for trans people. So this doesn't mean that trans people don't exist. It doesn't mean that trans women aren't women. It just means in the specifics of this particular act that the law is regarding. So they have to try and think of what the Labour government who brought in the Equality Act in 2010 were thinking. So that's the idea. So they have to put themselves in the mind of the MPs when they talked about women. Did they mean females from birth? But this opens up a whole Pandora's box, which we'll get into in a moment. Alistair, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Cake fund for Catherine. Happy birthday. Oh, yes, we'll get a cake. We'll get a cake definitely today. But yes, I've got to agree with Alistair on the other super chat that you gave about opening Pandora's box. It absolutely is. Everyone's saying happy birthday, Kat. Oh, that's really kind of everyone. I'll pass on your birthday wishes to her. She's 21 again, which makes me feel like a bit of a wrong, to be honest with you. Anyway, so yes. Trans women, even those with gender recognition certificates, are now excluded from legal definitions that shape access to women-only spaces and equality protections. This decision was cheered by anti-trans campaigners, led and bankrolled in part by JK Rowling, who I have a huge problem with for obvious reasons. So the case originated from this group called For Women Scotland, a group backed by JK Rowling, which argued that public sector gender quotas should exclude trans women. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled women means biological female under the Equality Act. Sex refers to biological sex. Gender recognition certificates no longer affects one's legal status under the Equality Act. Not under all law, but under the Equality Act. Trans women can now be excluded from women-only spaces, even with full legal gender recognition. Just let that sit for a moment. So you have a full gender recognition certificate. You have gone through the process of becoming a woman. You are now a woman, but because when you were a baby, you were allocated male at birth, you cannot, even though the gender recognition certificate allows you to change your birth certificate to say that you were born female, they don't want to let people in. And this is going to create, like I say, a whole kind of worms. Because one of the things that the gender recognition certificate allows you to do is to alter your birth certificate. But yeah, what's going to happen next is going to be horrible for trans women, but also cisgender women. And SG, happy birthday, Catherine. Oh, thank you very much, SG. I'll pass on the birthday greetings from you and from Billy Kershaw and from Shropshire Chris, who says my birthday tomorrow. Oh, another Aries. There's Aries in the air. Random question, but on birthdays, do you get given cake or do you give cake? I assume everyone got given cake, but people in my office always bring cake on their birthday. I find it odd. David, well, I mean, I'm up for the Hobbit way of doing things, in the Lord of the Rings, where it's Bilbo's birthday, his 11th birthday, and he gets people buy him. Sorry, he has to buy everyone presents. So once a year, you have to buy everyone presents. I think that honestly, I think that's better. You might disagree with me, but I think that's better because then you only have to worry about buying presents once a year, and you can do them all at once. Go out shopping, get everything for your mates. And you have to do it once a year. The way we do it's daft, isn't it? Because you've got to buy presents all through the year and you've got to remember people's birthdays. Like, I've got ADHD. I can barely remember people. Never mind people's birthdays. I mean, it's a nightmare for me. It's a minefield. It's a great way to lose friends and de-influence people, I guess. But, it's the way we do it. It's the way we do it. So, single-sex spaces. Trans people, these are the implications. Trans people with gender recognition certificates no longer have consistent protections across legislation. Single-sex spaces, hospital wards, hostels, toilets can now exclude trans people more easily. Trans women now face barriers to equal pay claims, maternity policies, and sex discrimination protections. Public bodies will revise policies to align with this new legal definition. Helen Belcher, who we had on the intersection last year, she said that this ruling's intent seems clear to exclude trans people wholesale from UK society. Jolyon Morn from the Good Law Project described the Supreme Court's rejection of submissions from trans organisations as the most depressing day of his legal career. There is no rule in the law more sacred than the need to hear from people before you consider removing their rights. And what happened in this court case is the billionaires, the monies, the fascist billionaire elite who want to use transphobia as a Trojan horse for fascism so they can do what they've done in America, where you have Donald Trump deporting people from America. And this isn't going to stop at Americans. This is going to become US citizens very soon. People born in America will be kidnapped on the streets by ICE and sent to these concentration camps that he's having set up in El Salvador, a country led by a warlord, essentially, who his MO is to incarcerate as many people as possible and possibly kill them. I think the reason why the guy that they erroneously took from Maryland can't be given back is because he's no longer with us. And you have JK Rowling congratulating Donald Trump, a known sex offender, a man who brags about sexually assaulting women, a man who has been found by a court of law to have raped a woman. And that was one that they could prove. And JK Rowling is giving him praise because that's how boiled your brain needs to be for you to be on the other side of the argument on this. There should be no argument. Trans rights are human rights. And the fact that this court only listened to these billionaire-backed transphobic groups and didn't listen to a single trans person, heard no testimony from a single trans person to come to this conclusion, is horrific. And Julia Morn has warned that the ruling could embolden Parliament to rewrite the Equality Act in more hostile terms. Scottish trans group, they urged people not to panic, but warned this could worsen hostility and legal uncertainty. Amnesty UK called the ruling disappointing and potentially dangerous. Absolutely. Alan Dale, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. That was really kind of you. And Yvonne, thank you very much. Member for 4 months, saying happy birthday to Catherine. Thanks for that. I'll pass on all your lovely birthday messages. Jane Lockwood is in there as well. One step forward, two fucking large steps back. Yeah. Do you know? And I know this is going to overshadow our other, the celebrations that we were planning today. But I gotta say, like, my birthday was the day that Zelensky was in the White House, and it completely, honestly, I don't say this lightly, it ruined my birthday because my phone was blowing up over, oh my God, have you seen what they've done? How dare they? And obviously, you want a day off, don't you? You want a day where you can just sort of celebrate your birthday with your family and your friends, but it really did just overshadow. And I just hate the fact that these events, these wins of the tyrant fascist billionaire scumbags, who there's not many of them. There's only a handful of these tyrant billionaires, and they'll be very easy to remove because there's millions of us and there's only a handful of them. That's all I'm saying, And I don't mean necessarily get all French Revolution on everyone, but I specifically mean pushing for a world in which these people don't have billions. In fact, these people are in jail where they belong. And I mean that in the most sincere way. Like, Elon Musk should be in jail in the same way that Sam Bankman-Fried is in jail. Or Elizabeth Holmes is in jail. What for? For conning people out their money. What does Elon Musk do all the time? What does Donald Trump do all the time? So there's another side to this, and I don't need to explain to you why this ruling is a disaster for trans women. I think everyone watching this is intelligent enough to put those two things together. What I want to do here is the talk a little bit about how it's a disaster for cisgender women too. If woman only means those with the correct biological traits, who gets to decide what a real woman looks like? Women who are tall, muscular, gender non-conforming, or have facial hair may now face increased policing in public spaces like toilets and gyms. Already, women with PCOS or intersex traits report being harassed and misgendered due to outdated assumptions about biology. And then we've got the institutional effect here. Schools, hospitals, sports clubs, and employers are now need to decide how they're going to enforce biological definitions, adding red tape, the risk of litigation, and constant scrutiny. Like, how do you prove this stuff? You sign in at the gym and they say, fill out this form, and you've got a little tick and it says M or F, and you tick F, and they go, what? Sorry, you don't look feminine enough. You need to prove. What do? Do you go and get your chromosomes tested? The vast majority of women have never needed to do that. Why would you? Do you have to get naked to prove? But then that doesn't prove it, because you could have had surgery to become a full trans woman, and who's to say? How do you prove it one way or another? And then you've got the issue with trans men who seem to be left out of this entire conversation. So if the problem is this idea that men will dress as women in order to invade women-only spaces to abuse women. So we're going to make it so that if only women who are biologically women, right, who were given, they tick the F box when these kids were born. Only they are allowed in female spaces, and that'll protect women from predators going in and pretending to be trans. But here's the thing. It is a million times easier for me as a bearded man with a deep voice to say, oh no, actually, I'm a trans man. And go into that space and say, no, I'm trans. I was born a woman, but I've transitioned. Now I look like a man. Check out these guns. Let me in. Now, trans men don't want to get changed in the women's changing rooms. Why would they? They don't want to use the women's toilets. Why would they? You have to queue up. But if you're going to say we need to protect women from men dressing as women, it is a lot easier for men like me. I don't have to shave to pretend I'm a trans man. To be a trans woman, that would take a lot. That would take a lot for me to even consider passing as a trans woman. This will disproportionately harm, obviously, the transgender community, but also cis lesbians, butch women, disabled women, and anyone who doesn't conform to stereotypical femininity, up to and including Olympian athletes who are being accused of not being a biological woman in countries sometimes where having a sex change would actually be against the law, where someone could be put in jail for doing that, like in Algeria. And I say jail, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse than jail. So policing biological sex, which is what these sad little turfy wankers want to do. Like, they woke up in the middle of the night, one day in the middle of the night, they woke up and they were in a cold sweat, a panic about the fact that trans people exist. That's it. Absolutely freaking out that trans people exist. And now they want to dedicate the rest of their life, like the horrible little mewling Karens that they are, policing the toilets. This is what they dream of doing. This is their dream job. They want to stand outside a stinky, unclean toilet in a National Express coach station in Birmingham and demand to see people's birth certificates before they allow them into their space to have a piss. They want to police biological sex, as they call it, biological sex, which just encourages suspicion, surveillance, and moral panic. And like with the anti-trans bathroom bills in the US, cisgender women end up as collateral damage. There was a story about a woman being arrested after a fight in a toilet in Florida a couple of months ago, and it was two TERFs. It was two TERFs, trans-inclusionary, radical fascists, having it out because each of them thought that the other one was a trans woman. They weren't. They were both cisgender women. But how would you prove it? And when some horrible little mewling Karen in your toilet is screaming at you that you need to prove that you're a woman when you're desperate to go for a piss, or maybe you've got a stoma and you need to go and fucking empty it. Maybe your period's come on and you've got no products with you and you desperately need to get into the toilet as quickly as possible before you start bleeding through your underwear. And there's got to be a woman there outside or inside coming out, having just gone for a piss herself, who looks at you and goes, "I'm sorry, you don't look traditionally white and feminine enough for me." An excuse for crotchety, disgusting old white women to tell black women that they can't use the bathroom. Wouldn't they love that? Wouldn't racists love that? An excuse to tell people of minorities, you can't piss here. You can't use these facilities. These are just for white women who look traditionally feminine like what I do. But here's the kicker. Most of these turfy motherfuckers don't look traditionally feminine. JK Rowling could be she could be trans. She could be. I mean, with that chin, that jawline, she could be. I'm not being horrible here. I have no problem with someone who is trans looking like her. But, who's to say? And I'm going to talk about JK Rowling in a moment. So I don't know if it's going to piss you off and maybe you want to watch something else for a little while. But I really think we need to get into the psychology of this woman because I find it fascinating and disturbing in equal measure. What made a beloved best-selling author of children's books turn into this fucking monster, appeasing fascists and going, "Oh yeah, were those people taken away to that death camp in El Salvador? I hope some trans women were taken along as well. That'll learn them." David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. Why can't we let people identify whatever they feel comfortable, faith, race, or gender? Only bigots want to squeeze you into a box that you feel you don't fit. Yeah. Trans women are women. That's it. And the thing is, if you have a gender recognition certificate, it means you've jumped through a lot of fucking hoops. I have trans friends who have gender recognition certificates. They take a long time to get. It's not like you can just turn up at your local post office and fill out a fucking form and go, can I have me GRC now, please? It doesn't work like that. You've got to have lived as a woman for 2 years. You've got to have gone through hormone treatment. You've got to have, lived the life of a woman. What is anyone going to do that so they can assault women? When most sexual assaults, the vast majority, we are talking 99% of sexual assaults in this country, or in any country, it's someone in the family, it's someone you know, it's a friend of the family, it's someone in a position of power, someone you work with, it's someone who knows you. It's not someone hanging around in a women's toilet who's been pretending to be a woman for the last 2 years just to see you wee. Like, that's so demented. I don't know where to begin. Like, how, you sort of think, how can people believe this? Like, how deranged must you be to actually think that that's something that people do? But you know what it is? It's this idea, when people think about like, oh, well, I wouldn't do it, but other people would. I wouldn't do that, but this, and it's a rule that I think that other people should follow. Not me, but I think that everyone else should follow this rule. I mean, I would never do that. And I find it disgusting. I'm very live and let live. Like I've mentioned before, I have no love for drugs. I hate them. I wish they didn't exist, but they do. And even though they're not for me, I would much rather see them legalized and regulated properly, and people who are addicted to drugs were given the treatment they need to get off the damn things instead of being thrown in jail. I'd rather take the power and the money and the weapons off these gangs who are buying all that power and money and weapons with drugs. Like, if we took it off them and gave it to the NHS to sort out, or specialist clinics to sort out, we wouldn't be having these problems. We wouldn't be having the same criminality issues that go on right now. But I don't want it around me, okay? So if you want to smoke weed, fine. Smoke it in your own house. I don't give a fuck, right? Just don't smoke it around me. I don't want to smell it. I don't want it anywhere near me. I don't want it affecting my kids. I don't want to be walking through Glastonbury and them inhaling, ganja, weed, fucking skunk. I don't want that, okay? So as long as you're not hurting me, I'm like, live and let live. Same with religion. I'm not religious. I think that people should be free to have their own religion and believe their own thing. That's fine. As long as it doesn't affect me. Don't expect me to be a Christian. Don't expect me to, actually, I'm just between you and me, I feel like I'm more Christian than a lot of actual Christians or people who purport themselves to be Christians, because I'm not particularly bigoted, and I'm not full of hatred to minority groups just for existing. I'm full of hatred to certain people for existing, but even the private school mafia, there are people on that list who I absolutely adore. Some of my heroes are on the private school mafia list. I don't hate them all for going to private school by any stretch of the imagination. People who go to church every week and yet hate trans people, they hate gay people, they hate people from other countries, they hate asylum seekers. I mean, if the hell does exist, they're going to it. But I don't feel the urge to demonize a particular segment of society and say they're all like this, because they're not. Everyone's different. And I think that if it's a mutable characteristic of a person, like being gay or being trans or being a ginger or whatever, that's unfair. It's cruel and disgusting for someone to be prejudiced against them for what they are rather than what they do. So if you are a transphobe, if you are a TERF, if you are a fascist, then yeah, I'm going to have a lot of vitriol for you. But that's what we should be judging people on. Not who they are, but what they do with their life. So yeah, live and let live. I wish that was the case for others when they see other people just getting on with their lives quietly and doing their own thing. I don't have any tattoos. Some people do. It's fine. I'm not gonna be screaming that there shouldn't be that there should be a law against tattoos or a law against a particular genre of film I don't like. Or you know, I hate Mrs. Brown's Boys. I think it's shit. It's never made me laugh, but it makes other people laugh. So fair enough. You know, go with God. If people enjoy it, then fair enough. As long as it's not being racist, as long as it's not being, demonizing minorities. Although I believe the guy who plays Mrs. Brown is a bit of a dick. So, there's that. I've got a couple of super chats come in. Did she change or just come out? Talking about JK Rowling. Thank you very much to Alan Jackson there for the super chat. We'll come on to this. Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Sheila Fogarty on LBC is really not in my good mucks at the moment. The way she approaches this issue is appalling. Yeah, Sheila Fogarty is a massive turf. She is a massive turf, and it's really, really disappointing. Not least because she's one of the few state school kids who actually got to be on LBC. That's quite remarkable in itself. She's also a Scouser. So, I like to be on her side on things. And most things, I am actually on the same side as Sheila Fogarty. But on this, on the Trojan horse, the gateway drug to fascism, that is transphobia. She's very much like, oh, women. I want to exclude trans women because they might attack me, which is absolutely not on. The case is winding up my anxiety, but internal at the moment, says Katie. I can understand that completely, Katie. And like I said, this is a safe space. We're going to be talking about the topic, but just know that there are other people who feel exactly the same way you do about this. And no, you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone. Do you know how many people have gender recognition certificates in this country? It's about 5,000, apparently. That's it. 5,000 people. It's less than 1% of the population. 5,000 people. That's it. That's what these TERFs are freaking out about. 3 high schools full. Imagine if there were 3 schools around the country and the people were like, oh, we got to stop these schools. We've got to stop these schools from teaching. Why? Because there's too many of them. Sarah, when I had surgery in 2013, I donated blood 3 days before because I felt the NHS was giving me life I needed. So I wanted to help others in return. It nearly killed me, but I wanted to help. Oh, Sarah, thank you for doing that. And you're right, donating blood, if you can, is a lifesaver. Catherine's had to have a blood transfusion in her life. If it wasn't for people who give blood, she wouldn't have been able to do that. If you can give blood, please give blood. And I know it's a pain in the arse, and I know that they ring you up and say, oh, can you come in 3 months? And I'm like, I'm ADHD, mate. I don't know what I'm going to be doing the next 3 minutes. Never mind the next 3 months. I can't commit to that. Even though that is the case. It is good to give blood whenever you can. I tried giving platelets once, and they couldn't get a good vein or something. They kept jabbing my arm. I'm not big on needles, you know what I mean? One of the other reasons I haven't got tattoos. And they went, oh, we'll give you the other arm. And I ended up, they didn't get any platelets. And I ended up with these 2 massive bruises there and there. Oh my God. Not doing that again. But yeah, I can still give blood. I can still just give the normal stuff. As far as I can see, the judgment means that trans women still cannot be discriminated against for being trans. But as far as women goes, they can be discriminated against by saying they are men. Yeah, Casey. Pretty much. Yeah, but this is why this court case has opened up a can of worms, because they could have said that in this particular case, in the Equalities Act, if you have a gender recognition certificate, you are regarded as a woman. They could have said that, but they didn't, because they were told not to by the billionaires who brought this case and the billionaires who got to testify in this case. You didn't. We didn't. No one else did. No one advocating for the trans rights got to say anything in this case. It was just transphobe after transphobe standing up and saying, oh, well, there's all these trans people and they're causing misery everywhere. But just like no one actually ever meets someone who came here on a boat, a lot of people have never met a trans person in real life. They've seen them on the telly. They think it's all Mrs. Brown's Boys, Little Britain, when the reality is not that at all. Diana is amazing. Isis is like, I can say this, Hecate is the ruler of Western sexy, and Canurus say, no man, go away. Okay, thanks for our music. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. Are we talking about myths and Greek myths? Greek Isis? No, that's Egyptian, isn't it? Hecate? That's Greek, is it? I can't remember. Gallifrey man, as I said the other day, the only danger I pose is to myself. My only agenda is to eat something delicious and healthy. I don't dare use any public loos for fear of attack. behold the threat I pose. I know, got a frame man. I'm really sorry that we're living in this fucking shit timeline, but we have to keep going and we have to keep making things better because there are trans people now. There always will be trans people, and they deserve our love. They deserve our respect. They deserve inclusion, not exclusion. And we need to keep fighting for that world that we want to see because no one's going to give it to us. Not least the billionaires who run all the papers, who own all the social media sites, who just farm this hatred again and again and again. Every day. Someone did they totted up how many anti-trans stories there were in the Telegraph in 1 year. And it was over 1,000 anti-trans stories in 1 year. Over 1,000. I mean, we call the GOP the genital obsessed party for a reason. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. Nowadays, I self-identify as being raceless, meaning a person without race. Only racists would attribute a race to me based on their past prejudices. Yeah, but I mean, also, we need to be awake and understand what has happened to people who come from certain races and how they've been held back over the years. And just saying, well, I didn't see race, I don't think it's enough. I don't think that's I think there needs to be some recompense. I think there needs to be reparations. I think there needs to be things in place. Like I'm a supporter of affirmative action because at the moment, I would like to see some affirmative action for getting state school kids into public office, to getting state school kids on the telly and into radio, the media, to getting them out there because we're discriminated against, especially if you're working class. Anyway, let's talk about JK Rowling for a moment. I really don't want to, but she helped bankroll the 4 Women Scotland legal challenge. She gave at least £70,000 to their crowdfunder. And from 2019 onwards, she initially claimed that she was just concerned about safeguarding women's only space. I'm just gonna turn my contrast down a little bit. I feel like I'm a little bit whited out. Now I'm a bit too dark, although it is a bit dark and it's a bit overcast. Natural light, you see, Dogma 95. Over time, this concern about safeguarding has descended into open hostility, pushing conspiracy theories about trans people and backing causes aligned with the far right. And don't forget, when it comes to, this is what I said about Brexit, right? And I think it cut through to some people at the time. I said, when you take a stand on a political issue, especially on a hot topic, political issue, I'm not talking about, voter reform or something fluffy. I'm talking about actually, which group to hate or whether we should leave the EU. Have a look who's behind you. Have a look around. Who's on the same, who's with me? Stand there on the hillside and say, who is with me? And see who turns up. Because if you are a transphobe, who's going to turn up? The ADF, the BNP, Refuck UK, Nigel Farage, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, fascists everywhere, the ghost of Adolf Hitler, whose regime went after trans people. All these people are going to be on your team. You're going to have all the fascists that ever were and ever will be. You're going to have all the Nazis who ever were and ever will be. You're going to have all the wrong uns, all the bigots, all the gruesome people. You're going to have people who want to kill. You're going to have all the psychopaths. You're going to have all the sociopaths. You're going to have all of the manosphere misogynists. You're going to have Andrew Tate on your side. You're going to be standing there with alleged rapists. You're going to be standing there with actual rapists, like Donald Trump. You're going to be standing there with the absolute flotsam and jetsam of humanity. They're going to be on your team if you are a transphobe. That's who's backing you. You're going to have Rupert Murdoch. You're going to have the Barclay brother. You're going to have Richard Desmond, the publisher of Barely Legal, who's now a massive Tory party donor. You're going to have Lord Rothermere, from a family that supported the Nazis in the 1930s, until it became less politically expedient when war was declared. But up to that point, it was hurrah for the brown shirts. It was send them back to Jewish refugees. all the tabloids on your side, and JK Rowling standing there, the queen of the turfs. She's found her calling in life, and it's being horrible to a minority. Bernice, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. That's very kind of you. Gwyneth said, my daughter lived in fear of being outed. She was so beautiful and no one ever guessed, but she self-medicated because of the anxiety and the drug affected her heart, and she had a cardiac arrest. I'm so sorry to hear that. Gwyneth, that's awful. That is absolutely awful. I'm so sorry. Katie, replying to Purity Vendetta, it can be fixed by relevant minister updating the Equality Act and making it clear that women includes trans women. I'd like to see that. I'd really like to see that happen. I've got no faith that Labour are going to do it, though, to be honest with you. Aaron says, it's a dangerous time to be trans in the US. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Yeah, absolutely right. Bernice says, damn, Super Chat went wrong. All I want to say is trans and proud, and I'll fight all it takes. Oh, brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Bernice. And yeah, trans and proud. Conscientious objector, I'm not sure I can give blood. I have factor V Leiden, basically the opposite of haemophilia. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. I'm glad we are who we are. These people who are the gentlest amongst us are beneath my contempt. It's like going after librarians, which they are in America, by the way. Going after librarians. All the trans people I know are sweet and gentle, and they just want to get on with their lives. I think that the drag acts that are very catty and hilarious, but I think that that's what a lot of turfy people think of when they think of trans people. They think, oh, it's just a drag act. They're just pretending. They're just dressing up for entertainment, and it's not the case at all. There is a very, very big difference from a drag act, which is, perfectly cool and okay, but the lived experience of being a trans person and living that life 24/7. Like, this isn't something that you just put on makeup and go onto a stage and do a performance, then come off and then take the makeup off. And I'm not dissing drag queens at all when I say that. I'm just saying that the turfs don't understand the difference. They think it's the same thing, which is incredibly disturbing on so many levels. So here's my personal theory, and I mused with this the other day, but years ago, about 10 years ago, JK Rowling was trying to launch her post-Harry Potter career, and she wrote under the name Robert Galbraith, and she wanted to pretend to be a man in order to separate herself from the sensation that was Harry Potter, international sensation. And she allegedly, I don't know the ins and outs of this, but it was something like the publisher's wife. They were around, I think she was at a dinner party or something, and she let slip that Robert Galbraith was in fact JK Rowling, or whatever name that JK Rowling was using at the time, was in fact JK Rowling. I think the first book was the Casual Vacancy, was it? Was that the first book she wrote under this other pseudonym? And I think that did two things for JK Rowling. First of all, it shattered her world in the same way that Michael Jackson's world was shattered by money. And perhaps other celebs or other people who've got lots of money, this is what breaks them. This is what breaks their brains. Because the most important thing that we have as humans, the thing that has propelled us to the heights that we currently live at, Trump and all that shit notwithstanding, is community. We crave community. We crave validation from our community. We crave being part of something bigger than us. It's an inbuilt human desire. Even the most introverted people you'll ever meet still want to be part of a community. It might be easier for them to be part of that community online, But you imagine someone who wants to be left alone but doesn't want to be alone. So someone who's happy to go and sit in the park and there's other people there. They're introverted. They don't want someone coming and talking to them, but they're happy to know that there's other humans around. It's a very human desire. It's why there aren't that many hermits in the world. I mean, there's a few, but it's not very common because most people, even the most introverted, want to feel like they're part of something. And so what that betrayal did to JK Rowling's brain is she thought, I can't trust any of my friends anymore. I've got too rich. I've got too powerful. Are they just being nice to me because they want a piece of my money? They want to take things from me. They're only friends with me for what I can get them, for the gigs that I can get them on the guest list for. They're only friends with me because, you know, they think I'll buy them cake because I'm so rich. I'll buy them a car or pay off their mortgage. And once that trust in others has gone, in your friends and the people that you hang out with, that can be hugely damaging to someone, you know, especially someone with a super monster ego, I guess. The other thing, I think, is that at that moment, because she was pretending to be a man in order to further her own personal agenda, which is fine. I have no problem with that. She wants to write under a man's name. That's cool. But at the same time, I think because she was outed as Robert Galbraith at that time, she flipped in her head and it became this thing of, well, if I can't be a man, then nobody else can. And at that moment, she decided that if she can't change her gender to sell her books or whatever the reason was, then nobody, the richest and most powerful author in the world, if she can't change her gender, then nobody can. And I think that's where it all stemmed from. And the bitterness of that happening. She took the publishing company to court. She won lots of money. She didn't need money. She got more money. I think the woman clearly messed up. I'm sure she was apologetic about it afterwards, but hell hath no fury like a turf scorned. And the rabbit hole that people go down when they enter into the world of, I don't like these people who are able to change their gender. I'm scared, fascinated, perhaps a little bit obsessed with these people. I don't want them around me. I don't want them to have rights. I don't want to have to deal with them in real life. And then that manifests itself in casual transphobia. She accidentally liked a post, she said on Twitter. She accidentally liked a post. Then in 2020, she wrote a full essay on why she hates trans people. And she tried to backtrack on it a lot and say, I don't really hate trans people. But she does hate trans people. It's very clear. But the interesting thing in that essay was that she blamed her transphobia on a relationship that she had, an abusive relationship. And my heart goes out to her on this because no one should have to live in an abusive relationship. But here's the thing. It was an abusive relationship with a cisgender man. Not a trans woman, not a trans man. And she has transferred all that anger, the shame, the humiliation that she felt having gone through that relationship. She transferred that hatred not towards men, which in a way would be fair enough, but she transferred it to trans women instead. And started this obsession about women's only spaces, which, let's face it, don't really exist in this country. Most women live with a man, whether it's their dad or their brother or their husband or their son. Most women live in a household and there's men in it. They share a toilet every day with men. They go out to work, there are men there. They go on public transport, there are men there. They go park their car, there are other men parking their cars. They go to the park at lunchtime to eat their lunch, there are men there. Where are these women-only spaces? In a toilet? Really? That's your safe space, is it? That's where you want to go? To get away from men for a bit? Excuse me? I don't really understand that. If you live alone in a flat, okay, cool, go back to your flat. But like thinking, oh, I'll go into this toilet and that'll be my safe space. First of all, you got a queue to get in if you're a woman, because all architects are men. And they design buildings around the physique of men, around the needs of men. That's why the footprint of a men's toilet that's why the footprint of the men's toilets in Wembley Stadium is exactly the same size as the women's toilets. And that's why if you go to a sporting event or a gig at Wembley Stadium, the queue for the women's toilets goes around the fucking stadium. Whereas there isn't a queue for the men's. There isn't one. But there's nothing about that. There's nothing about, oh God, I need to access my safe space. You're at a festival. You're at a gig. Thousands of other people there. And what, you're going to go into the Portaloo and go, thank God it's a Portaloo. I can clear my head here in this absolutely stinking of shit Portaloo. It's just madness. It's absolute madness. And then you have changing rooms. I don't know. Maybe I'm just led a sheltered life. But I've never in my life in this country been in a changing room where there weren't cubicles. You go in the cubicles, you get changed, you come out. What's the problem? I don't understand why anyone who is thinking of doing harm to women will go through the process of transitioning, getting a gender recognition certificate so they can attack women in toilets. When 99% of men who commit sexual assault in this country get away with it. And nearly all of those cases are someone that they know. Nearly all of them, someone that they know. You go on a date and you sexually assault the woman you're on a date with, it is going to be very difficult for her to bring a criminal conviction against you for that. And men know this. Men know that sexual assault has effectively become decriminalized in this country. That's what we should be going after. That's what these gender criticals, as they call themselves, should be going after. But they don't. Because that's the hard yakka. That's difficult. That's going to take a long time. That's going to change a lot of things. It's going to stand up to the patriarchy. They don't want to do that. They just want to fuel the patriarchy. They just want to fuel the fact that men can do what they like. Cisgender men can get away with murder. Literally. Whereas women, across the board, are discriminated against. In architecture, in the arts, in sports, in science, in life, in the amount they get paid, in prejudice, in sexual assault. And I know some men get sexually assaulted as well. But the numbers, comparatively, it's overwhelmingly women. And the fact that we're hearing nothing about this, I feel like I'm the only one who ever points out the fact there's a queue for the women's toilets. Why is there always a queue? Why aren't the women's toilets 3 times as big as the men's? Because you know they're going to have to spend more time in the toilet pissing, and you're going to have more cubicles. So make the footprint 3 times as big as the men's. That's it. Everywhere. Why not do that? Oh, because we can't have... We can make women wait to pee, but not men. And, you know, this JK Rowling woman, she wanted to write anonymously as a man. And when she was exposed as the author of these books, it shattered. It absolutely shattered her psyche, I think. I mean, look, this is just conjecture. Obviously, I've got no evidence. But it does seem a bit like the timing is a little bit like... So she's writing these books about prejudice, about overcoming prejudice, about overcoming this fascistic rise of these evil wizards who wanted to purge the wizarding world of all the people they call mudbloods, who were not from a wizarding family, people who were born with magical abilities, even though both their parents or one of their parents was not a wizard or a witch. And that evil was overcome. And that seemed like a good morality tale. A lot of LGBTQIA plus kids growing up, reading the Harry Potter books, hearing about a little boy who's hated by his family. They don't understand him because he's different. They keep him under the stairs. And then he finds a magical world where there's thousands of people just like him. And they're having adventures. And yeah, some of them are dickheads. But the majority of them, the heart's in the right place. What a great story to tell kids. What a great story. It's okay to be who you are. But now, at some point, after the Harry Potter books ended, and before 2019, when she started on this crusade against trans people, something broke in JK Rowling. Something broke in it. Maybe it was just getting older. Maybe she just looked in the mirror and she hated what she saw. And instead of internalizing that hatred, she turned it on everybody else, or everyone who's trans. Witchy Goth, thank you very much for being a member for a month. Absolutely, Graham. Happy birthday, Catherine. Oh, thanks very much. Thank you for that. Simon says, my alternative theory on Rowling is after seeing her books burnt in the USA by the right, she joined a money grab. Maybe. Wish I hadn't been in changing rooms without cubicles, but at school, the dodgy and now prosecuted teacher would probably have had objected to cubicles. Well, exactly. So make the law. There's got to be cubicles. That's the law. I mean, obviously, I don't frequent gyms too much, so what do I know? But make the law, there has to be cubicles. And if you're going to sexually assault someone, I don't want to give tips on sexually assaulting people, but I would have thought that you'd want to do it in someone's home, or in your own home, or their home, rather than a public place where anyone can walk in at any time. Just saying, that's just no witnesses sort of thing. I'm not someone who gives crime advice, but the idea that men who want to be horrific, who want to do horrific things to women, are going to be put off by a sign that says women on the bog toilet door. That is just madness. That way madness lies. Also mentioning about JK Rowling, her Galbraith novel, they feature transphobic tropes, including a cross-dressing killer, straight out of Psycho, straight out of those 90s films where everyone who was evil was a trans person for some reason. And recent books revolve around women being cancelled for refusing to accept trans identities. So this is the richest woman in the world, the richest author in the world, who has something like 14 million followers on the cesspit that is X. And she is someone for whom Elon Musk, who is a massive transphobe with a trans daughter, Vivian, who's brilliant, you should follow her. Even Elon Musk said, do you want to give the anti-trans stuff a rest? Maybe, I don't know, go write a book, touch some grass. But this all takes place amongst, in the global backdrop of Trump's war on trans people. He has put forward executive orders. He signed executive orders that have reversed recognition of trans people in federal law. He has banned trans athletes, restricted healthcare, and erased LGBT protections. The UK Supreme Court is part of a global wave of anti-trans authoritarianism, and transphobia, like we keep saying, is being used as a Trojan horse to roll back broader civil rights, attacking women, LGBTQIA+ communities, and academic freedom. So what can we do? Well, first of all, we can support creators, people who make shit online, who are standing up for the trans community. Trans creators like Katie Montgomery, please follow her. She's fucking brilliant. Also, trans allies, follow them. It doesn't cost anything. And you don't even have to watch the stuff that we make, okay? Just put it on and walk away, just so we get those extra views, because we need them. We need all the support we can get. We're not being backed by tyrant billionaires who want to bring fascism to the world, who want to dig up the corpse of Adolf Hitler and the charred remains of Adolf Hitler and fuck them, okay? We want to move away from their worldview, and this is how we do it, as a community, together. Support trans organizations like Transactual, Stonewall, Mermaids, Gendered Intelligence, and the Good Law Project, who are doing a lot of very good work protecting trans rights, really going above and beyond to protect trans people. And use your voice if you can. If you've got a voice, please use it to push back on bigotry. If you're not trans yourself, don't expect trans people to do all the fighting on this, because they can't. There's not enough trans people to make a dent, but there are enough trans allies. We need to get our friends and family on board. We need to talk to them about what's happening here and what's really happening, and make sure that our friends and family aren't falling down the transphobic pipeline. Have those conversations. Don't stay silent in the face of injustice. And make your spaces explicitly trans inclusive. Make a point of saying trans people are welcome here, whatever that space may be. And demand that the UK government and Labour commit to protecting trans rights and reforming the Equality Act accordingly. They can do that. They can change the Equality Act to make it worse for trans people, but also they can change the Equality Act to make things better. And I really think they should. I think they should specifically state that if you have a gender recognition certificate, then you have the same rights as a woman in this country. That's it. End of. Because you've gone through all that. It's not like, I think that the anti-trans people, they think you just turn up, like I say, at the post office and you fill out a form and suddenly you're a woman. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. So I'm sorry to cap off the show today. I'm so sorry. It's really shit what's happened in this country. But it gives us something to fight against. It gives us something to stand up against and to point out how gruesome and evil and bigoted and scummy these transphobes are. They want to pretend they're feminists. They're not. They're doing an absolute number on feminism. They've never done anything in their lives to promote women or help women in any way, shape, or form. JK Rowling herself, her name's Joanne. She didn't write under the name Joanne Rowling. She claimed that was because people don't read children's books written by women, which comes as a great surprise to the likes of Beatrix Potter and Edith Blyton. Julian Donaldson. I mean, big surprise to them. Big surprise to so many authors who write children's books who are women. But yeah, she claimed that she needed to make it sound like it could be a man writing it. And then, once she was rich and powerful enough, she decides to start writing novels under the name of a man. So it's all right for her to switch her gender identity. It's fine for her. It's not okay for everybody else. Typical fucking billionaire fascist gobshite behavior. This is the same mentality that got us into Brexit. This thing that I want for myself, I'm not going to allow anyone else to have it. The fact that the rich were so upset that people like you and me could afford to go to Rome for a weekend on EasyJet, and it cost fuck all, and we could actually afford to do that. They hated that. They want us working 3 days, three jobs, 7 days a week. They want to work us till we die. They don't want to give us pensions. They don't want to give us any kind of like sick pay or holiday pay. In America, they have no mandatory maternity leave. It's one of only 3 countries around the world. I think it's only like Papua New Guinea and Suriname who don't give statutory maternity leave. Saudi Arabia, famous defender of women's rights, they have statutory maternity leave. Tell you something else Saudi Arabia's got. Segregated spaces in public. Because men and women can't be together in public. That you'll have a restaurant and you'll have 2 entrances. One is for men and the other one is for women and children. And the kitchen's in the middle, and they bring out food to the men, they bring out food to the women. Segregated spaces. In very, very oppressive regimes, they have female-only carriages on the trains because they need them. Not because women need to be protected. No, they don't care about that. but because men can't be trusted, it will distract them for the same reason why women have to sit upstairs in the synagogue, because the men would otherwise be distracted from their prayers. There's always women who are punished for men, for the way men are. And you find this time and time again, as you go around the world, you see countries that are most regressive, countries that don't let women vote, don't let women drive. They're the ones who we need to separate men and women. And the reality is, we don't live in that world in this country, and I do not want to live in that world. And the respect and the love and the appreciation we need for each other has taken a knock over the last probably 10 years. And we need to just keep fighting. We can't give up, because this is the fight of our lives. And we can't let these fuckers win. It's as simple as that. As simple as that. I'm so bloody minded. And I hope you are too, because we're not giving up. I'm not giving up. And someone said to me, it's the one thing keeping me going is just like thinking I'm not going to let the fuckers win. Fighting against Trump, fighting against Brexit, fighting against anything. It's never over. It's never done. When the anti-European lunatics lost the referendum in 1975, which was a 2/3 majority, a super majority to stay in the EU, or the EEC as it was then, they didn't give up. They didn't stop. When Trump lost the 2020 election, he didn't stop. Kept going, didn't he? So why should we stop? Why should we give up? I don't think we should. Sarah Davis, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Graham, thank you, and thank everyone here for the support of the trans community and people like me. We're so supportive. Thank you very much for supporting the channel, Sarah. I love seeing your name come up. It's nice to see the same names coming up for the shows. I love the fact that we're building this community together here, and it is a safe space for people from any walk of life, as long as they're not a fascist. I mean, that's it. That's my rule. Don't be a fascist. Stephanie Jeffries, thank you so much for the £10 super chat. That's really, really kind of you. And Alistair Kerm is giving lots of claps. Rather great. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Smite of the hour. Not sure if it worked or not, but I tried to drop you a like from 30,000 feet yesterday. I would have expected it. The highest like ever. Anyway, greetings from Italy. We have thunderstorms. Oh, my word. Well, it's a bit overcast here in Durham, so I don't know what's happening today, but hopefully we'll get to go out later. More than ever, we need our allies, says Gallifreyan Man. The trans community as a whole are ragged and exhausted from the stastalt of however long it is now. Yeah, Gallifreyan Man. Absolutely agree. I think this is the time, I think the time for trans allies to stand up was years ago, to be honest with you. But now we really do need people banging the drum for the trans community and standing up and saying, this is wrong, this is not right. And I was heartened by my TikTok feed yesterday. So many of my friends, people that I know, but also commentators that I just follow, standing up and saying this is disgraceful. Cisgender people, cisgender women, saying how heartbroken they were by this ruling. And that gives me hope, because, like I say, the trans community in this country is vanishingly small. So if you are part of that community, fucking, yeah, you're a unicorn. Like, you are so special. You are like, you're unique. You're a shiny Pokemon. Whereas the rest of us seem like kind of bland and boring in comparison. But there aren't enough trans people to really make a stink about this. They need allies and they need our support. So if you can, please do give them all the support that you possibly can in this matter, because this fight isn't over yet. And until we get to a position where people are accepted and get to live their lives the way they want to, not hurting anyone else, until we get to that point, we will keep fighting. We won't stop. We won't give up. Thank you very much to Liz Allen, which I think was going to be the last super chat of the morning. Thank you very much for the $5. It's very kind of you. And I'm just going to say it. So I was going to do Hughes the World about Dominica later today. I don't think I'm going to do that because it's Catherine's birthday. We're going to go out, I think.
However, we might not go out. So there is a chance I might do a show later today. So, just keep subscribed to the channel. If you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon, it'll let you know when we go live. We try to keep it at 9 o'clock every morning that you get this show. And then in the evening, we have the evening shows. Trying to keep them at the same time, but it doesn't always work out that way. Obviously, life sometimes gets in the way. If you could just do a little favor for us before you leave, just hit that like button. Give us a red hot like on the way out. It doesn't cost anything, but it really helps out. And also consider joining the channel. All you need to do is hit the join button if it is there, and it's just a couple of quid a month, but it means there's a solid baseline of income coming in for the channel, which we really appreciate. So if you could do those things, that would be absolutely awesome. But you don't have to, no obligation. Two lols or your money back. So until next time, I'll just like to say thank you for watching, and my heartfelt sympathy with the trans community, and also my solidarity with the trans community. I'm with you on this. This is very much a trans ally channel, and we will continue fighting the good fight for as long as it takes until trans people are given the same acceptance and the same rights under law and the same provisions against bigotry and against prejudice as the rest of us seem to enjoy. And until that happens, I'm going to keep fighting on, and I hope you are too. So thanks very much for joining us. Thanks very much to everyone who dropped a lovely message into the chat there. Thanks to everyone for being rather civil this morning. And thanks so much for everyone who dropped the super chat. Obviously, I might be on later. I probably won't be, but if not, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the next morning brew. And until then, I'd just like to say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.